Okay, so welcome to, there's Linda joining us. Welcome to the law of karma. I giggle because I really do apologize that last week I needed to move the session, and I apologize for anybody that was disrupted through that. But it was for karmic reasons in the end, so it was quite funny in the end when I could see that. Hello, Angela. Welcome, 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 welcome. So tonight, hello, Linda. There you are. Okay, so everybody come online. So we'll be putting up the chat box. There's a few of us here tonight, and as always, for those of you that are new or haven't joined one of these sessions, as we go through the various dynamics of the law, there'll be opportunities to chat, but you're more than welcome to interrupt me or ask questions or share reflections in the chat box. It's always a lovely way to interact with everybody. And so the structure for tonight is we'll be going through the law of karma and introducing you to some probably interesting and new and reflective thoughts around what karma actually is and how we can start seeing karma to be the gift that it's intended to be, and it's not this torturous, horrible thing we have to endure and suffer through. That karma is actually a great opportunity and a great gift. And I'll be working through how karma works in your life and starting to bring some awareness of what may be karmic awarenesses for yourselves. We'll be talking about some things like country karma, ancestral karma, karmic grace and karmic dispensation. So we'll be looking at various principles around this. And then we'll be ending off with a karmic release meditation that will be governed by the karmic board. So we'll see what comes through with that. For those of you that have never worked with me before, those of you that have worked with me before will know this, is that I think I know what's going to happen, but we never really know what's going to happen. So Spirit intervenes and takes on what we need to know. And these spiritual law sessions, these evolve sessions, have been quite magical in the way that they've really disclosed new information to each of us. So thank you for showing up and allowing yourself to participate in that. So maybe as a starting point, if you all want to put in the chat box what it is, so there's some of you that have been quite drawn to this webinar in particular. So what drew you to the Law of Karma webinar? And those of you that have been doing Evolve as a series, what is it about the Law of Karma that entices you or interests you or intrigues you? What's the things that are most going on for you as you sit here at this point in the webinar? So if you just want to use the chat box, just kind of reflect your thoughts around this law of karma and your thoughts around it, your ideas around it, your wishes around it, whatever comes up for you there. What I'm going to do whilst you're doing that is just share my screen so that you can see the webinar on the screen. Right, so, okay, so you should all have the webinar on your screen, is that right? I assume everybody can see that. Cheryl, happens with immediacy, no waiting in the wings. General knowledge, understand the deeper meaning outside of what you said. Heavy burden, okay, never a positive experience. Wendy, a card reading last week, as well as general curiosity. It was very funny. Wendy pulled a card from a deck that said break the karmic pattern or break the chain or something. And later on in the day, when I was busy putting together the content for this webinar, I pulled cards out of that same deck and got exactly the same card. It was very funny. Okay, collective karma, the situation in what is the spiritual awakening that's happening from that collective karma? Recent relationship patterns. Okay, cool. Okay, so that starts to give a little bit. There's Catherine. So Catherine got a reading from her guides today, and it was talking about karmic patterns, and she just signed up for the webinar. So can't make this shit up, can you? Can't make it up. Okay, so the law of karma. The law of karma is something that is spoken about quite a lot. Karmic patterns, or karma as a word, is often used as a sort of attack sort of thing. Karma will come around, karma's a bitch, karma will get you, what goes around comes around, all that sort of energy that we align, no problem, glad you're here, Clive, that we use with the word karma. We're going to have to start to notice that that might be the problem. Is the karma in itself is not the problem, but the way we've amplified it to be a sort of way to, you know, almost attack people, or you know, send out bad wishes about somebody, maybe the very thing that holds karma trapped at this point in time. And so we'll talk a bit more about it. But you will see there the card that was drawn for the law of karma. And we're going to start off with, I'm going to call that, is really just having a look at this card. And I'd like you all just to look at it and find out what stands out the most for you from this card. What is the message the card in itself gives you? So when you start to look at that, just notice what jumps out, what grabs your attention, what you're aware of. What is it about this card? What's the message that you start to get as a starting point for the law of karma? Duality, yin, yang in equal parts. Balance, flow, halves of a whole. Okay. Good and the bad, and bad and the good. So we've got that sort of yin yang. Dark and light, and balance and harmony. Yeah. So interconnected is a really important thing of how this all works together. So you'll start to see a couple of things that are useful to point out. Is night and day, the sun and, you know, the darkness and the light. If we start to think of the sun and the moon, or the night and the day, we can't really choose which one's better. No, is nighttime better or daytime better? It's an irrelevant question, because even if you have a preference, it's still going to happen. So, you know, learning to make the most of what nighttime is about, and learning to make the most of what daytime is about, is the joy of life, and trying to flow with that as a natural interaction. So we do get the 4. So I was going to see if anybody had got the 4. So Cheryl's just put that up. Is the 4 is stability and balance. So actually what we've got is the typical yin yang in the background. It's got this, the moon and all the night and day sort of energy in it. But then we've got 4 yin yangs within it. So the sort of, it's not your typical balance. There's almost like a relational element, and yin, the 4 energy is the energy for 2020, and the 4 energy is the energy of stability, foundation. You know, what is the base? And so when we start to look at karma, and we start to understand what's the base we at, what is the level we at, and what is that giving us, and how do we start to integrate with that? And then we've got 2 dragonflies. So relationships, the way we relate to each other, the way we treat each other, the way we work with each other, our interactions, our contracts, all the ways that we work with people we know and people we don't know. Our relationship with humanity as a whole is a really important part of karma. I'm going to talk a bit more about that, our relationship with humanity as a whole. So what's your perspective of people? Yeah. My son always says to me, I hate humans. And I'm like, well, you are one. So you're going to have to deal with it at some point, my boy. Yeah. But you know, do we think of humanity as good? Do we think of humanity as awful? And these are big questions. You don't necessarily need to answer them, but it is starting to bring you up into the energetic connection you've got with your kin, that you've got with the rest of humanity. And you can't be perfect and the rest of humanity is awful, except for your close friends. You know, there's a sort of group consciousness that that plays into karma that we'll talk about. Dragonflies are unsequenced, they're not symmetrical, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. Angelica is saying that you may attract one more than the other. So we're going to start holding this card in mind as we start to unpack this law. And really, there's kind of a sort of surrealness, and we've got this darkness that it's all enveloped in. So if we have a look at the background of this card, it's all in darkness. So allowing ourselves to use darkness as the place for growth, that darkness is almost the holder, it's the container, that we need to start seeing anything that you think of as dark, maybe the container for your growth. I'll say that again. Anything that you think of as dark, maybe the container for your growth. Because it's going to hold a portal for perspective. It's going to hold a place for you to learn, for you to heal, for you to grow. And so ignoring anything that feels dark for you may not be the strategy for growth. That's not intended to sound scary. If it does, then I apologize, but it's not intended to sound scary. So let's start off with what the law of karma is. And when you understand the word karma, if you look up the etymology of the word karma, karma means action or to act. So that's what the word karma means. And I want you to hold that in mind, is the implications of action and the relationship of action or to act on the way that we experience life. And so karma's got a direct sort of way of connecting actions to responsibility. It's like an impact. What is the impact that is happening? And so the law of karma is not here to cause us pain. We've probably caused pain and have to deal with it because of the law of karma. But the law of karma is not here to create pain. The law of karma is an opportunity for wholeness. And when you look at the yin-yang symbol, that is actually what the yin-yang symbol is about. More than balance, it is more about wholeness. Balance is often more the infinity symbol. The yin-yang symbol is wholeness, is parts that are equal, a level of equality, a level of integration. So anything that is out of harmony, out of balance, out of integration needs to be brought together to be whole. How do we embrace allness, wholeness? And wholeness is a word for healing. So the law of karma is fundamentally there to create healing. How do I heal? How do you heal? How does the world heal? The law of karma is the catalyst for healing. It is always an opportunity to find balance, harmony, and integration. Karma, the reason karma is a challenge for us, and I'll talk a bit more about this as we work through it, is karma requires us to collapse polarity. So anything that you've got as a polar thought process, polarity is black and white thinking, right, wrong, good, bad. Anything that you have in this form of polarity, karma is saying collapse it into one, find the wholeness of it. So, poverty, abundance, or scarcity and abundance, if you wanted to put it that. Racism and equality. Anything that you think is masculine and feminine, that is opposite, that has some level of versus, right or wrongness to it. Karma asks for it to be collapsed. Collapsed into one. And as we learn to collapse things into one, something new can emerge. So the reason karma is a challenge as a starting point here is the mind does not like anything that it can't put into its little boxes. So the mind is continuously sorting out crap into boxes. Is this person good or bad? Right or wrong? Is this memory I have one that is nice or not nice? Can I trust it or not trust it? All of these are binary, they're polarity thoughts. And that holds things in separateness. And karma is asking us to collapse it into one. And then karma is related to the law of cause and effect, but it's more closely related to the law of harmony than it is the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect says, do this, watch the reaction. For every action, there is a reaction. So you can't, and you're going to need to hear this very loud and very clear, you can't not influence the world. So I'm going to say that again. You can't not influence the world. And I know it's confusing because I'm using a double negative. But so many people keep asking me, how can they influence things? You already are. You've got to own the influence you're having. Everything you're doing has an effect. And we'll talk a bit more about that. So karma aligns with the law of responsibility. That we have to own what we have created. So if you have any questions or thoughts or comments coming up, please just put them in the chat box. I'll create some space a little bit later on for some reflection, but if you want to ask any questions, please feel free to do that. So I've started to talk about this, but this has to be the biggest myth we need to get through when it comes to karma. Because it's not a reward and punishment scheme. Karma is not a new age heaven and hell scheme. So the statements, if I do good, good will happen to me. If I do bad, bad will happen to me, is not what the law of karma is about. Not on that simplistic level. If I could put it into more perspective for you, it's whatever I do is going to impact the whole, and whatever's happening on the whole is the karma we're all dealing with. So everything I do impacts the whole, and what's happening on the whole is the karma that we're dealing with. So it's not a, if I'm nice to every single person I meet, I'm going to have a lot of money come my way. And it's not, if you are being horrible to me, it's just, watch that. I mean, I always tease my son and say, you carry on like that, karma's going to get you, and ultimately he kicks his toe or does something, and I tease him. But it's not actually that, or karma's not chasing you around going like, oh, you did something bad, let me come and hurt you. We go, oh, there's not this idea that if your life is not going the way you want it to, that you're being punished on a karmic level. So many people say I must have an awful past life for me to be suffering so much in this lifetime. It's not necessarily true. There might be something you have to own. There might be something you need to choose to act on. But there's no big brother watching that's trying to reward you for being good or punish you for being bad. All there is within the polarity of earth and on the school of earth is the law of karma exists within earth for us to take accountability for our actions. To take accountability means, what am I creating? And if I can create that, then I could create this. So what else is possible? What else can be created? So this card, many of you know it, comes from my deck of cards, and it's one of my favorites because it is the card that comes up around a karmic wound. I'll talk more about karmic wounds now, but the reason I love this card is this bird is not even in the cage. It's just sitting attached to the cage. It's not even locked up. It can fly if it wants to, but it chooses not to leave it. And that choice not to leave the cage is often what keeps us trapped, rather than feeling that there really is an entrapment around it. So we do not get evaluated through our life against any tick box exercise of how good you were or how bad you were. The opportunity for reflection of our lives comes more from, where did I grow? Where did I heal? Where did I change? Where did I contribute in the ways that I want to? But there is not a tick box exercise that says, oh, you donated a lot of money, but you were awful to this person. It's not as simple as that. It's so much more about, what is the impact you've had? So this very statement, this thing is the thing that we need to really unhinge, because the more you fear karma, the less you're going to use karma as an opportunity for your growth. Does that make sense? The more you fear karma, the less you're going to be able to embrace it and free yourself from it. And the fearing karma is the fear of getting into trouble if I'm not good. Whatever that looks like, sounds like, feels like for anybody. We all have different criteria of what being a good girl or boy or being a bad boy or girl looks like. And that sort of very innocent, wounded part of us that is looking for some form of safety, that, you know, if I'm good, I will be safe in the world, is not related to karma, that's related to the wounded child. So, I have said karma is an opportunity to find balance, harmony, and integration. It is the alchemy of opposites into something new. So you can start to think for yourself, and you could start to put these down on a piece of paper around you if you have it, or even just think about it. Is what for you is a balancing scale? What for you is right and wrong? If you had to even just think of one thing, that this is right and that is wrong. Just start to notice, whatever it is, what is something that you have as right and wrong? If you feel brave enough to put it on the group chat, you can. Something that feels to you, this is right, this is wrong. When people do this, it's wrong. Start to become aware of that and just notice that, because it's very useful for your own healing tonight. Okay, talking badly about a person is wrong. So what would be the right, Angelica? Talking nicely about a person is right. So see what the opposite is there. What would be right in that one? Who else has something? Do it places right or wrong? Okay, so saying nothing is right, but talking badly about someone is wrong. Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So it's really, these things are the things, and it can be the tiny little things, you know, not cleaning the kitchen is wrong. Mistreating animals is wrong. Not keeping promises is wrong. Not showing integrity. Abuse versus care and respect. Doing something, you know, will be hurting somebody else for your own benefit. Okay. So just notice all of these, and notice how easy it is for you to say what's wrong, but what's right. Do you see the tendency for us to go to what's wrong? It's very quick. What's right? Just starting to notice that. Because this is our evaluative mind, isn't it? This is our judgment of judging something as right or wrong, means that we constantly have it on the scales. When you're being a good person, says Angelica, I love that. Good person. We're all good people in this call. All the bad people are on other calls. I've never met somebody who says, well, I've met many people who think they're a bad person, but never really are a bad person. like AA. All right. So when we start to understand what karma is about, it's trying to get rid of this seesaw. Because think of a seesaw, it's up, it's down. If I'm on the other side of a seesaw with you, if you think of that childlike energy of being on that seesaw, one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. If you were ever like me, I don't know if I was the only child that tried to do this, I tried to get the seesaw to balance exactly so that neither was up and neither was down, because I didn't, that for me felt like it was more fun, is to try and do that. To try and get that to stay there. It's almost an impossible thing to keep it energetically there. It requires quite a lot of energy to do that. And the only way to not do that is to not ride the seesaw, is to go on to something else where we can actually play together. And it doesn't mean that this is a bad game. It just means that it keeps things up and down. Think of being in a conversation with somebody, and I'm on this side of the conversation and you're on that side of the conversation. The up is right, down is wrong. And so we're both up and down. Who's right, who's wrong, who's right, who's wrong, who's right, who's wrong. Nothing transfers itself, nothing transforms, nothing changes. We just keep going like this. But when we get off the seesaw and we can start to say, okay, let me listen. Let me find out what this is about, because then we can heal what's going on here. So to witness and acknowledge something, at least to say it exists, is the starting point of healing our karmic wounds. Of being able to embrace it rather than try and change it. I'm going to say that again, to try and embrace it rather than change it. Because what's really interesting is once we've embraced it, we can influence it. We can act differently. We stop going up and down the seesaw. We can start to take different action. So remember what I said earlier. Karma is about action. The word karma means to act. If this action I'm taking here is holding this in place, I need to take a different action. That definition of insanity we all know. Yeah? Doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, expecting different results. So if we use one like Clive's, mistreating animals is wrong, how do we shift it? We need to start taking different action. Posting photos on Facebook is probably not actually changing it. It's just feeding it. It's feeding it because it feeds this propulsion system of up and down. So is our action feeding this, or does our action create this? Do our words and our deeds and our beings start to create this as an opportunity? And holding this picture in mind is a really powerful way for you to start owning the action you take. Is if I'm playing this game, either I must get off and walk away, or I must enter into a different kind of game. And this kind of game means I'm going to sit in it. I'm going to witness it. I'm going to be whole with it. This kind of game here is one of separation. Up and down and up and down and up and down. What does walking away do to the karma? Amy, I'll come to that question a little bit later. So it depends. If the best thing for me to do is to stop playing the game, and if I'm being obsessed with the game does not serve me, the best thing I can do is walk away from the game. Walking away from the game can heal all the karma, provided you walk away with love, not with, I give up, fuck you all, I'm not done, that sort of thing. I walk away because I say it's not good for me. And I truly release it. Sorry, those of you that don't know me very well, I swear. So, get used to it. So, it depends on the energy of walking away. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on. Yeah. So, alchemy of opposites is the heart's work. So, I'm going to say that again. Alchemy of opposites happens in the heart. does not happen in the mind. This is the game of the mind, and this is the game of the heart. So what I mean by that is that we can't understand difference. Trying to understand difference is going to keep you at odds with somebody or with something. If I had to ask you, Wendy, to understand abusers, your mind's going to go like, what do you want me to do? Like, how do I even begin to understand that? Your mind cannot understand something you've programmed to believe is wrong. But I can go into awareness and witnessing and compassion and intention and look at what's going on underneath that. I can't remember which workshop it was I ran, but the way the guides worked with it, they asked everybody to list, I think it was in Lifting the Veil last year, they asked everybody to list something they wanted to change in the world, something they wanted to eradicate in the world. It was last year, yeah, Nadine and Heather are here. Something you wanted to change in the world. And then whatever was listed, child abuse, animal abuse, poverty, separation, whatever it was, the only answer the guides gave to healing it was love it. How do you make love to that? How do you bring compassion and grace to that? So the law of grace is on Wednesday night for those of you that are part of the Evolve series. And grace is the highest form of love that we can bring to something. And grace means I work with something, not against it. So there's a lot of reflections happening, and I'm going to give you a chance to talk through some of them now. This is a very interesting picture that they were quite insistent as I started to do this work that I bring in this snail energy. And karma is fundamentally about owning the trail we leave behind us. Now, when I did the very first time, I actually channeled the Diamond Ray Council, and that's where the word Lightwalker came from, is Lightwalker was about owning each step we have on Mother Earth, knowing that every step I take has an impact on Earth and an impact on the people. The energy with which I take a step is something that's going to leave a trail behind me. And they use the words like a snail's trail behind you. If you turn back, what is the trail that you've left behind you? And this is not in the idea of perfection or good or bad, but an ownership and accountability that every step I take, I'm able to make a difference. Every step I take, I influence. Every step I take, I impact. Now, obviously, snails don't step, but every slide they slide is they leave behind something. But if we start to look at the snail and we look at some of the energetic messages that come from the snail, firstly, it's slow. Slowest animal on Earth, apparently, is the snail. So karma's typically been a slow process. One of the things to truly, truly, truly understand is karma is not immediate. Karma goes across lifetimes. So this idea of being good in this lifetime and law of abundance is going to make me a rich person. Karma is not an immediate in the current lifetime thing. It's across lifetimes. It's a group consciousness thing. So karma is really about this slow process of transformation. We do have a thing called karmic dispensation happening on Earth at the moment, and that's allowing us to heal past patterns quicker. But what you're doing now is impacting the future, not the now. And it's accountability for the future that holds a karmic responsibility in place. Nadine, can karma be linked to group consciousness, or is it personal, linked to ancestry? Both of them. So it's personal, ancestral, and group, and country karma. So we've got all the levels. So learning to kind of take accountability, exactly right, roller coaster, to take accountability for what's the impact I'm having now on the future. This is where the word legacy comes from. And that's a really, really, really difficult thing for our mind to comprehend. If we look at every corporate board meeting, it's the tension between action for now and action for future. Yeah. We live in quite an immediate kind of energetic field. That's the law of cause and effect. But karma's got a much bigger energetic blueprint. Karma comes from the fact that Earth was offered as an experiment to humans to see what they would do, and then you will take accountability. Whatever you do, you will resolve. And that's what the karmic wheel is. Whatever you do, you will need to resolve. And so this taking accountability for the long process is really not something that needs to cause fear, but cause perspective of how do I walk with more love, more compassion, more kindness. And this is the ascended master's energy, isn't it? Of how do I love the unlovable, forgive the unforgivable, and stay open to the possible, rather than reacting to the current. And that's the distinction of doing this versus this. The other thing that's important about the snail is it seems quite small and insignificant. Like, not many people are in love with snails. This one's quite cute. Not many people are really loving of snails. But if you've ever had a snail in your garden, you only need one to like ruin a whole beautiful bush. So snails can have quite an impact if they hide away. So the impact of small is really important as part of karma. Every small act counts. It's not the big acts, it's the minuscule small acts that start to build up, that count together. So I'm going to pause there and just see if anybody's got any thoughts or... you didn't miss that one, Angela. Expand or repeat about Earth as an experiment. So at the risk of saying that I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it really is a whole course in itself, but when the Intergalactic Council came across Earth and realized that it was very close to the other ascending planets, there was souls that agreed to come here to experiment with what it is that what they could do with Earth. And there were Intergalactic Council members for it and against it. And so what they did is they put in place a law of karma to take accountability for whatever was put in place there. And that's where karma came from. Exactly right, Catherine. It does very much link to the chaos theory. Very much so. Anybody else got any questions or thoughts or comments that you'd like to bring up here? You're more than welcome to come online and chat if you want to at this point. What's really useful to start noticing is the things that are disturbing you. Like, what are the awarenesses you're having around karma that are disrupting your current thought process around it and bringing you to a new realization and a new awareness of it? Because there's a depth to this karma that is really, really valuable. Anybody want to ask or say anything?
Can I ask something?
Absolutely, Angela.
So would you say that the law of karma is the opportunity that the earth being have to learn the law of grace?
Yes.
And to learn the bigger the law one, and to kind of it's only through karma and through self-reflection that this kind of learning to the higher level of understanding can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So without it, we have no way of taking accountability, and we do need to understand the distinction between accountability and blame. Accountability says, okay, I'll own what's happening and work with it, even if it wasn't my fault. Blame is, who did this? Whose fault is it? And when we go into that energy of blame, we hold the karmic pattern in place. So this owning what's here and saying, I'll work with it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the wholeness, isn't it? That's the yin yang. And you can have a look in the world at the moment. Somebody was asking about what's going on karmically in the world at the moment. We need to release the need to find out who to blame for what. I'm not even sure what we're blaming who for anymore.
But it's also true that when someone acts with grace, as opposed to on the blame, then there is a much large ripple effect for everyone else that has received the lesson.
Absolutely, because we have karmic grace happening at the moment, which I'll talk about a bit more. So you're absolutely right. Every time I act with grace, it heals so much more than the pain. Yeah, perfect. Yes, Amy, of course you can speak, my love.
Hi, Taryn.
Hello, my love.
I wanted to ask, because I have this image in my head and this like storyline almost of forgetting who you are and then going on a journey through a karmic cycle of then remembering who you are through certain lessons to come back to that place of oneness within yourself. And I also have this idea that through that journey, say you become conscious and you remember who you are, and you take the lead on understanding the laws of karma and working with the laws of grace throughout the lifetime. Once you pass then, can you choose to come back to learn lessons that are of a much lower grade, so you can go way back, so you can become aware, do beautiful things, but your soul wants to learn something else, so you skip all the way back to a place of a lifetime that is bringing up great pain and living through certain lessons also. Then.
Absolutely. The only part of that I'm going to add to, which might just mess it all up a little bit, is there is no back and there is no forward. It's just and that lesson, and that lesson, and that. There's no back, there's no hierarchy, there's no progress. There's no this lesson's better than that lesson or any of these. We don't go back to something before, forward to something. In spirit, there's no time. So it's just and. It's just, okay, so I've transcended that, I've worked with that energy, now I need to work with this one, now I need to work with that.
Okay. So you can choose, yeah, but if, like, people refer to a journey, you go through the journey of learning to come to a place of higher awareness through places of ignorance.
Yeah.
You can randomly choose whatever all the time, so it's all just a nice jumble.
That's why, all of those statements are ones of the ego and of the mind to some extent, because is my spiritual progression bigger than yours, better than yours? Am I further along? Am I more spiritual? Am I more awake? Am I more vibrationally attuned? Am I older, young? All of that nonsense.
Thank you, Taryn.
Sorry, Angela. Sorry, Amy, to mess that up. Yes. There is no bad soul on earth. There are souls trapped in bad karma. Souls trapped in reliving karmic stories and wounds that it's time for us to move on from. And either I'm going to play into the karmic wound and the karmic story, or I'm going to heal it in myself, for others, and for all. So those of you that, if it's messing with your head, it's okay. The laws mess with our heads because our heads are not doing a good game. They're not helping us very much. So it's okay to notice what's disturbing for you and to notice that this isn't black and white. This has a depth to it that we can experiment with for, you could run a karmic course for a year and we still wouldn't have gone into everything that exists within it. So I'm going to talk about some of these concepts here because they are ones that we have heard about. So karmic debt. Karmic debt is the idea that something that has happened for me in a past life is I carry the debt for it. And so the idea is that I must pay it back. This is not true. Karmic debt is not a payback scheme. karmic debt is exactly what I was talking about with Angela. It's an accountability scheme. Okay, I'll own it and do something else. Remember, the law of karma is to act. So I'll own it and do something rather than pay back. And so we really need to release this idea of repentance. Repentance is, oh, I did bad, let me try and make good. Repentance holds the past in place. It holds the split. Accountability holds, okay, now what do I need to do? Now, when the law of karma was originally set up, it was set up that we were, and hold your horses when this happens, that you came to earth accountable for every karmic action of anyone in your ancestral path, your entire lineage. So your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, your great-great-grand, anything they did karmically, you are responsible for healing. It's got a lot of karma. What's been realized, and this is why we've gone into a karmic dispensation or karmic grace period, is that account that holds too much in place. And so we have an opportunity to heal karmic wounds much quicker at the moment by me acting in grace, learning to love, releasing, walking away when I need to, and playing new games. I'm going to say that again, playing new games. I don't play the games that my ancestors have played. I don't play the game of racism. I don't play the game of this. I don't play that game. I play a new game. When I do that, it heals all the past wounds as well. It's just the debt is written off, so to speak. Karmic healing is when I have the opportunity to remember, healing means wholeness. I have the opportunity to bring something back into wholeness. Now, one of the things that's going to be a little confusing around this is karma. The karmic healing might mean not being good all the time. What I mean by this is how many of you, in the fear of being bad, don't look after yourselves, don't take care of what needs to happen, don't speak up, don't express yourself, don't call out what's going on in the world. And the healing is when you act in alignment with your intuition, with your truth. And so you are whole. And so in that wholeness, you can heal all that needs to be healed. So I've spoken about ancestral karma in the sense of the lineage behind us, and that we've heard of souls that come forward to heal all that happened before them. And as I heal what my path is, as I walk a new path, which we'll talk about a little bit more, so all those from the past are freed. So they do not need to come back to earth to play that karmic game. They're free to come back to earth free of that karma. So if I walk a path that frees my ancestors of their karma, I'm not doing it for them, I'm just because of the natural path I'm walking. When they determine their soul contracts of coming back to earth, they don't have to be, they're not bound by those karmic contracts anymore. So that's why we have high ascension happening. That's why the opportunity for ascension is happening at this point in time. The karmic law of rebirth, which is a little bit of what Amy was maybe inadvertently asking about, is there's an idea called the karmic wheel, that there's different kinds of lessons. Remember those polarities, different opportunities for us to learn to integrate. So let's take a random example. There's still quite a war of masculine to feminine, the patriarchal energy to the feminine energy. It's not like it was in the past. It's shifting and changing as we're going through a lot of healing. But if I still think being male is good and being female is weak, or being female is better than being male because I can do everything and you can't do anything, every time I play into the war of the sexes, I'm in a polarity split. And when I can truly integrate that masculine and feminine are partners, and that can take many different forms, then I've healed the need to play into the distinction between male and female. And this is why we have so many souls coming forward that are transgender, binary. They have no need to identify with male or female. They don't play that game. They're both. They're there. And it disturbs many souls that are still playing that karmic separation of male and female. Nadine, so does this include cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers and sisters? Yes. All bloodlines. All bloodlines. You do not need to be responsible for all of it though, Nadine. That's a karmic wound that you need to heal. Exactly. Do you see where I was coming? Like, you're not responsible for their karma. That's why we have karmic debts. It's just when you do what you need to do, which right now is releasing responsibility, it might actually heal all that's come before. Good. And then we got country karma. There's karma that exists within certain places on earth that is different. So the karma of India is different to the karma of Australia. It's different to the karma of Africa. It's different to the karma of America. And so we can see certain patterns play out in certain countries because it's governed by the country karma. And when you choose to come back to earth, you choose where you come back to heal some of the country karma. And that country karma has, so when we look at all that was going on in Australia at the beginning of the year, there was a lot around the karma of Australia and the fires healing a lot of the wounds that were there. And so when we look at being in Africa, the karmic patterns of racial divide, the karmic patterns of poverty, the karmic patterns of separation, all these patterns are ones you are invested in healing. How do you know? You're here. And by being here, it's a game you want to change. It's a game you want to transform. And Africa is the solar plexus energetically of Earth. Solar plexus is about power, healing power dynamics. And every time we transcend power to love, we actually send out a vibration to the entire world because we hold solar plexus in Africa. So it's quite useful to start almost getting a little bit more curious about this. What is the game going on? How do I feed that game? And does that game serve me, or could I play another game? And if I want to play another game, how do I have to exit that hook, that game, and play another game? So this is the part where it gets fun for you. Your karma is linked to your triggers. So how do you know what your karmic wounds are? Your karmic path is everything that gets you going. So a trigger is something that pisses you off because it's wrong. It should not be like that. A karmic contract is someone that just irritates you and pushes your buttons all the time. That they might not even still be alive, but they push your buttons. They might not be in the room, but you think about them and you get irritated like now. A karmic event can be memories that it's almost like you keep reliving it. You may be obsessed by your grandparents or something that's happened and there's almost something that you talk about, and every time you talk about it, that emotion comes up. And when we have this trigger, now I'm not talking about emotion in the natural process of working through the day. I'm talking about these things that when you think about it or talk about it or see it, you get confused, you get angry, you get lost, you get hurt. And quite importantly, you get lost. You don't know what to do with this anymore. Like you should let it go, but you can't. This is the way to identify karma, your personal karma. Leanne, I'm not sure I'm understanding your question, my love. What happens if I have a repeating pattern in my dreams, but a different environment?
Okay, so I'm constantly. Can you hear me?
I can. Saying hello.
Hello. I'm constantly having a repeating pattern in my dreams where I'm in a workplace, but each time the workplace is different. And occasionally there's one person that I know in the workplace, but each time it's a different person. And they exclude me, don't want to include me, take my ideas, and I have nothing to do. And then I'm chased away.
Have you answered your own question?
It's just so, but what can I learn from that? I don't know how to integrate that into. How do I learn from that? That's what I can't work out.
Okay, so we can take it offline in terms of the detail for you of the specifics of it, because otherwise, if I start doing specific patterns for each person on the call, will be all night. But starting to identify that there's something that you need to pay attention to about being excluded, not being taken seriously, being left out, all these sorts of things. There's a wound there. There's something that triggers you, and it's not necessarily about a person, it's about that experience. And the fear of an experience can also be a karmic wound. And so the healing for that is getting comfortable with being excluded, by the way. So the strange part with healing it is if I fear rejection, if I have an obsession with fearing rejection, so that means I make sure everybody knows what I'm doing, whatever it manifests into in terms of our behavior. The healing is embracing rejection, inviting rejection. That rejection no longer hurts me. And that pathway is one that is one that really the mind doesn't always understand. Because when we experience the very thing we're trying to resist, that's when we heal. Because we find the resources to deal with it. And the dreams are very powerful at the moment, particularly because the veil is quite thin. And we're lifting it. So funny. But the dreams bring the unconscious, the things you don't want to talk about, into the conscious mind. So we have to think about it and talk about it and find out what's the fear, what's the wound, what's the pain. Does that make sense, Leanne, when I answer it that way?
Okay, kind of, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, we can go into the depth of it specifically for you offline.
Thank you.
So, as you start to think about this, I want you to firstly think of the person that pisses you off the most. Or it could be a list of people, known or unknown, because we could have people that irritate us and we've never even met them. I'm not going to name them on this call. So, just start to notice who are the names that come up for you when I ask you who pushes your buttons, who irritates you, who gets you going. Angelica says Zuma. Yeah. So if you want to answer, you can, but you don't need to. But also think of the people close to you. You know? Often it's a child. Yeah. Parents have children and then they irritate them. You know? Brother-in-law, says Clive. Cool. Okay. Now the trick, mother-in-law. So the trick with all of, there you go. Okay. So now you start to see, now there will be karmic triggers with these people. There's karmic contracts, karmic patterns. What you need to see, particularly, so somebody like Zuma, for example, Angelica, is whether it's Zuma or people like Zuma. So what I mean by that is people that hold that sort of pattern, because that could be a karmic wound to people like that. It's the same thing with your brother-in-law, Clive. It might be he represents something you don't like, as opposed to it being him specifically. So whenever we're looking at these people that trigger us, if you can extrapolate it to what's about the individual and what's about people like them or traits within them or things about them that we do not like, that in itself helps us understand what's the distinction. That it might be a karmic contract or it might be a karmic wound with that sort of energy of it. And you might find there's many people with similar patterns that irritate you. People like this, people like that. And a person's going to come into your life and represent that for you in a very big way. I call these people, though some of you have heard me say this before, Now, I call these people your angels. They're here to help you heal. It's very irritating to hear me say that, and I'm very sorry. But this is how we can heal the karma. Is they're not trying to push your buttons. Your buttons exist. What is it that they can push in you that you need to heal so it no longer is like this big red gaping button? And when you do that, you've healed the karma for yourself and for everyone. Okay, so have a look at that. And what's really, really interesting, Angela, as you put that up there, is that often the thing that we are triggered by in others is the thing we don't allow ourselves to do. So we've said that that's bad. Can you see how in the good and bad of it, I'm not allowed to do it, so why can you? And the healing is going to be, how do you need to put your personal interest ahead of the collective interest? Because that's not going to make you a bad person. It might make you stronger. The one thing that is challenging when you're doing an hour and a half presentation of the law of karma is quite intricate. It's got a uniqueness. And so when you have readings done, we can get into the nuances of your karmic wounds and your karmic patterns. But for now, you're looking at it on a principle level. Okay, so triggers are things that it's like a button goes off in you. And imagine you programmed yourself that way. Imagine as a soul, you programmed yourself to get triggered by certain things so that you would deal with it. Nadine's having a little moment of interaction with Angela. So I'm not yeah, they know each other, yeah. Okay. So I want you to identify a couple of things that are useful for you. So when we do the meditation a little bit later on, that the things that are coming up for you, you can reflect on and you can bring it in so that we can bring some perspective and healing to these karmic triggers. Please know a karmic trigger can also be with somebody you deeply love that hurts you. So there are many different kinds of contracts. Many people will talk about the idea of soul contracts. When you're lifting the veil, we'll talk about contracts quite a lot, those of you that are doing that. But please know there's not only one soulmate, there are many soulmates, and there's a very specific soulmate called a wound mate. And a wound mate comes into your life to show you your wounds. Okay. So, how do we heal karma? You're not going to like it, so I'm going to give it to you, but you ain't going to like it very much. You're going to take this thing that pisses you off, this thing that irritates the living crap out of you, this person that you can't stand, and you're going to imagine sitting with them and saying thank you. And you're going to embrace an attitude of gratitude. I'm grateful for the people that put their collective interest above the personal interest. I'm grateful for my dad. I'm grateful to my father-in-law. Now, even as I say it, you don't believe it. So we need to, like, you know, we're not going to sit there and go, thank you, thank you, thank you, okay, so I can just get through the steps of karma. It's when you truly consider and say, thank you for showing me this about myself. Thank you for the lessons you have been teaching me. Thank you for playing the part I hired you to play in my life. I'll say that again. Thank you for playing the part I hired you to play in my life. That single question heals karma like you can't believe. When I say to clients in sessions, imagine this person is, you hired them to play this part. What is the gift in it? What is it they're offering to you? What can you learn from this energy, this person, this event, this thing? Now, I put this up as step 1, gratitude. This could take years, depending on how stubborn you are. and your need to be right, and your own lack of willingness to embrace that energy. So let's take some that might be a little bit difficult. If I had to say, how do I show gratitude to people that have hurt animals? What is it that I can open up to be grateful for? Is maybe they have oh, Clive, that's very funny. I'm not sure you need to tell him, but you can if you want. Is maybe that's taught you compassion. Maybe it's taught you the courage to speak up. Maybe it's taught you sort of a way to start valuing all lives. No problem, Cheryl. Take care of yourself, my love. So gratitude in itself is we may need to dig really deep to get to the truth of the gratitude, not the act of gratitude. Is that on a soul level, there's something for me to experience, and so what is it I can learn from this? So gratitude is step number 1. Forgiveness is step number 2. And the interesting part about forgiveness is not of the other person. It's forgiveness of self. Forgiving yourself for your anger, forgiving yourself for your insecurity, forgiving yourself for playing the game, forgiving yourself for all the judgments, forgiving yourself for whatever it is. Forgiveness of others without forgiveness of yourself is not really healthy at all. So here is a beautiful forgiveness affirmation by Diana Cooper. And I'm going to read it to you, so if you want to kind of just go into a little bit of a quieter place, you can feel what the words bring up for you. I forgive everyone that has ever hurt or harmed me, consciously or unconsciously, in this lifetime or any other, in this universe, dimension, plane, or level of existence, or any other. I offer them grace. I ask for forgiveness for everything I've ever done to hurt or harm another, consciously or unconsciously, in this lifetime or any other, in this universe, dimension, plane, or level of existence, or any other. I ask for grace. I forgive myself for everything I've ever done to hurt or harm another, consciously or unconsciously, in this lifetime or any other, in this universe, dimension, plane, or level of existence, or any other. I accept grace. I am free. All chains and restrictions fall from me. I stand in my full power as a master. So tomorrow you will get this, and so this is a beautiful affirmation to share continuously with yourself. But this is easy. This one's easy. The specific ones, the specific patterns, the specific zoomers, and the specific people that irritate us. This forgiveness needs to be reworked many times, but notice the components of them. I offer them grace. I ask for grace. I accept grace. And like I said, the law of grace is happening on Wednesday night, so it flows from this. Step 3 is release. Release is very different to letting go. Release is a very different energy to letting go. Letting go is I must let it go, I must let it go, I must let it go. Release has got a lot more to do with I unwind all the tension I hold about this. So it no longer holds my energy ransom. It no longer holds my body trapped and tense. Remember the bird that was sitting on the bird cage earlier? It's the tension that holds us trapped. And so release, as I release the breath, I release the tension. And you can notice that, is it not true? When something triggers you, when there's a karmic wound, when there's karmic hurt, do you get all tense? Do you tense up? Do you hold it in your metabolism, in your energy field, in your body? Release means it no longer does that. I can do this and no longer happens. And so I have to learn how to remain soft and open, then it's released. Then it has no longer got its hook on me. So if there is someone that, I mean, I'll use my ex-husband as a good example. It took me, I don't know how many years, but eventually I got to the point that I can see him or hear his name or hear somebody talk about him and my body doesn't go into tension. Then you know it's released. That karmic wound is done. And so as you're healing karma, trust me, you're going to have lots of opportunities to notice in your body your response to it. Am I at the place where it's released, or what has got me all hooked up again, and what do I need to release? And it's not their job to change, it's your job to change the game you play. Once you don't play the game anymore, the game is done. So I'm not going to read this in the sake of time, but I'll send it out to you. So there's a release invocation that you can use if you're wanting to use it for yourself. And then step 4 is you need to take new action. So I know some of you were reading it, I'm sorry, but I will send it to you. So I sit in gratitude for this. I forgive, I soften. I notice the release of all tension that I have around this. And from the place of non-tension, I choose how to act. Because from the place of being all activated in my karmic wound, the action I'll take then will just keep repeating the game. But when I can act, so this is what I was talking to Amy about walking away. If I walk away in that place of activation, then I've released nothing. But if I can walk away with grace, if I can walk away soft, and it's not trying to change what's going on, I choose how to interact with it. Walking away or doing something, whatever I need to do. So walking away is not the only option. I can choose to engage. I can choose to have a different dialogue. I can choose to say we can have a relationship if we never talk about this. I can do many things. I can set in place boundaries. I have many options for action. So if I use Angelica's example of somebody like Zuma, how do I get grateful for what Zuma's offered? And we might need a lot of the various laws that have come before this to help us do that. How to forgive that? And how do I release it so that every time his name comes up or anything like him comes up, I don't get all activated? So this is a little bit of a long thing, but I am going to read it to you because it's such a beautiful thing. So this is from a book called Broken Open by Elizabeth Lesser, a really, really, really beautiful book for anybody who's wanting to break open their heart to live a different life. And she writes the following. The philosopher William James wrote that there are two kinds of people in this world, the once born and the twice born. Once born people do not stray from the familiar territory of who they think they are and what they think is expected of them. This is the old game. If fate pushes them to the edge of Dante's famous dark woods, where the straight way is lost, they turn back. They don't want to learn something new from life's darker lessons. They stay with what seems safe and what is acceptable to their family and society. They stick to what they already know but don't necessarily want. Once-born people may go through life and never even know what lies beyond the woods, or that there are woods at all. Perhaps a once-born person awakens one morning and feels the beckoning finger of fate, loosening disturbing questions. Is this all there is to life? Will I always feel the same? Do I not have some purpose to fulfill, some greater kindness to give, some inner freedom to taste? And then he or she gets out of bed and dresses for work, and he or she doesn't attend to the soul's questions. The next morning, and all the next mornings, they live as if the soul was a figment of a flighty imagination. This inattention makes them confused or numb or sad or angry. A twice-born person pays attention when the soul pokes its head through the clouds of a half-lived life. Whether through choice or calamity, the twice-born person goes into the woods, loses the straight way, makes mistakes, suffers loss, and confronts that which needs to change within himself in order to live a more genuine and radiant life. For me, there's no better description of how to heal the law of karma. Because the law of karma is not changing anybody outside of you, but changing the game you play and finding a new path. Being a twice-born person means you change the game you're playing. And so if you even just start to think about, what is the game I'm playing that I no longer want to play? What's the game I'm playing that I no longer want to play? The ability to choose a new path is the hardest thing. It's so easy to stick with our triggers. But to heal our triggers is a whole different thing. And that's what the law of karma is an opportunity to do. And group triggers are even better. Exactly right, Sandra. So remember earlier I said that if you look at the dragonfly picture, it's encased in darkness. So it's always in the dark. So if we've ever wanted to find a new pathway, sometimes it's the bravery to not know what that pathway will lead to. So it's stepping out of our comfort zone. So we're going to be going into a meditation by the karmic board. And I'll tell you who the karmic board is now. And the crystal that I had channeled for tonight's law of karma is petrified wood. And I didn't know that I was coming up to the twice-born person going into the forest. That only happened later. It actually happened today. The presentation was finalized today. Even though I had it on Wednesday, this only came up today. And so petrified wood is a beautiful crystal that is actually crystallized for wood. It's a tree that is crystallized. And the way petrified woods gets crystallized is, firstly, we know trees hold ancient wisdom. They hold it all the time. But what happens is a tree dies and it gets covered by mud and goes deep in the earth. And what happens is the mud covering it from any sunlight, it goes into the dark and all the liquid is drained out of it. And the calcification of it being in the dark and without liquid, and the way the earth interacts with it, it starts to crystallize. This is a beautiful petrified wood egg. And petrified wood is a karmic release crystal. If any of you have petrified wood, to release karma, you can run your hands along the rings of any piece of petrified wood you have. And you can do that whilst you're meditating. So if any of you have a piece of petrified wood that you'd like to work with through the meditation, you can do that. If you don't, that's also okay. It doesn't mean the meditation won't work. You can put it on your wish list of crystals to have. Is petrified wood is the crystal for releasing karma. Does anybody have any reflections or questions or thoughts before we end off tonight with the, before I do the meditation, and then we'll come back and end it off from there. Did anybody have anything you want to ask or share or reflect at this point? Okay, all good, all deep in thought. Absolutely. Could a trigger be the shadow self of another? Absolutely, Sandra. And then we may need to look at, is it not part of your shadow too? As part of our shadows are the parts we won't look at in ourselves. So whenever we see something in someone else we don't like, it exists within us too. We may not be acting on it, but it might be there too. That makes sense? Okay. It's a big, this one's a very big one. So we say that every week, don't we, Linda? But there's a lot to reflect on when it comes to the law of karma. And really, it's valuable to spend some time on this and get, readings are the way that our karmic wounds get brought forward to us the most. Okay, so just so you know who the karmic board is, it's really not important. There are some beings of light here that you may know. There's some that you may not know. Don't worry too much about all this ray stuff, and that's just complexity of spiritual stuff that we're going to talk about another time. But essentially, there are 12 beings on the karmic board that are all responsible for a certain energetic power and that supports Earth's ascension at this point in time. And we can work through any of these. Those of you that are on Lifting the Veil, you'll get to know many of these beings of light. The ones that are most relevant for us at this point in time is Lady Nada, Kuan Yin, Lady Portia, and Yeshua, Jesus, are the ones that come forward as the strongest ones at this point. But I'm going to be channeling a meditation for you that is the collection of the karmic board. And really, it will be a meditation that takes you through a journey of noticing your own karma and your own healing and what is available for you at this point in time. I do record the meditation separately so that that's something you can do separately. You can listen to it again and again if you want to. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm just getting it ready here and switching it on. So there's a beautiful picture for you to look at if you don't want to close your eyes. That relates to what we've been talking about, this karmic opportunity to walk a new pathway. So I encourage you all just to get comfortable. If you fall asleep and I have to end the call before you say goodnight, it's happened before, so don't get too ashamed of it. And it still works, but try and sit upright and allow yourself to experience this meditation as much as you can. Cool. So let's get started. So just allow yourself to settle into the space you're in. Just become aware of your surroundings. Become aware of any noises around you, any sensations or feelings you have. Just welcome them in. Everything is accepted. All is perfect, just the way it is. And allow yourself to unwind from a day and a lot of content that's come your way recently by moving your head from side to side and releasing any tension in your shoulders and neck. Just taking deep breaths in and out. And as you release that tension, notice any other tension that requires you to just witness it, honor it, thank it. As you find yourself relaxing and opening up to this moment right here, right now. You start to become aware of a rhythm in your body. The rhythm of your breath, the rhythm of your thoughts, become aware of the rhythms inside of your body, pulsing of life. We all have a pulse of life moving through our body. As you connect with and embrace that pulse, just become one with it. No resistance, no separation. And as you do this, you find yourself on a path. You're walking down a path. A path that is familiar and comfortable to you. A path that you feel safe and secure in. Just notice where you are. Become aware of your surroundings. As you just easily and gently walk down this path. This path is leading you to your happy place, a place that you go to reflect. As you continue along the path towards your place of reflection, sanctuary for your soul, you can feel yourself opening up. Open up with compassion, will, desire. You know, when you go to this place of reflection, you heal and grow. You find your path leading straight into your sanctuary for healing. Become aware of what it's like to walk into this place for you. As you go in, you have a deep feeling of comfort, safety, grace. Wander around a little bit until you find a place to sit quietly, knowing that you're in a place that is full of love, totally protected, and bathed in light that is perfect for you. The being of light enters your sacred space and makes its way towards you. This could be an archangel or a being that is filled with radiant love for you. It is a being sent by the karmic board. It is not important that you know who they are, rather that you feel what they are bringing forward for you. How do you feel in their presence? As they sit in front of you or step in front of you, they show you a book of records. This is your book. It's the book that's got all the stories from your past. Everything that has ever been or done, every contract that you've ever had, every experience you've ever participated in, every action is in this book. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. That is yours to read. There is nothing in this book you don't want to read. You know that everything in this book is a gift to you. Everything that is shown to you is an offer of love and opportunity. The being in front of you asks you what you want to see in the book. And you can state clearly for them if you want to see something around a person, around an experience, around an idea, something that you know triggers you now, that they're willing to show you in this book. There's nothing you can't ask. As you ask, the being of light opens it to the correct page, almost by magic. There's a part of you that's curious and open and willing to see, to learn, to heal, to grow. As the being of light stands in front of you with the book to show you the pages that relate to this, they ask if you're ready to see. And you say yes. And they don't show you the book, they put the book against your heart so that you can feel what is in that book. As they hold the book open in the place for your reflection against your heart, there is wisdom to be gained from it. Friends, be quiet for the next minute as you receive the wisdom from your Akashic records around what it is you seek. As you allow yourself to receive all the wisdom, all the grace, all the knowing that is relevant for you to know now. You start to feel grateful for this experience. Your heart softens. So you start to see the gift and the opportunities that have been granted to you through this. What it is that is available to you. You start to feel the triggers dissipate. Gently softening into awareness, knowing. And being of light creates a space for you to forgive all past hurts that you have carried around this across time and space. You are forgiven. They are forgiven. All is forgiven. You are free. They are free. All are free. So you allow the freedom to start moving through your body. Noticing the love and care that the being of light has to offer you and everyone involved in this. You become open to the possibilities for a new way forward. For you to take new action. As the being of light removes the book from your heart and opens it up for you to see. As you look at the book, you will see there is nothing there. It is a clear page. You have a new story to write. You create the next chapter. The power is yours. The choice is yours. You are free to choose whichever path you want to take. With that, the being of light leaves your sacred space, knowing that you can call him or her back there anytime to look at any page of your Akashic records. They are yours to review. You start to make your way back slowly to the here and now, moving out of your place of comfort and love, back onto the path. As you walk back to here and now, you start to notice all the new pathways forming around you. So many possibilities, so many choices for you to make, all possible, and none good and none bad. And as you come back to the here and now, you can wiggle your fingers and move your toes and bring back with you all the wisdom you have gained. Right, so those of you that are still awake, I'll just stop sharing this and come back to here. As I hope that you found that to be lovely and beautiful for you to work with. And know that you can do that as many times as you want to. So as we wrap up, I know it's 9:45 already. I apologize for that. But if anybody wants to say anything in the chat box, I know it's been a very content heavy night and there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for chatting. But each one flows differently. So thank you very much for showing up, for being brave souls. Oh, Clive, I'm so glad. Sending you all so much love, peace, joy, and perspective. And I'll see you all soon. Take care. You okay, Heather? She's gone. Linda or Catherine, you okay? Or are you asleep? Do you need anything? Oh, I'm glad, Catherine. I hope that it gave you some perspective, my love. Perfect. I'll see you all soon. Cheers.